I showed you guys in prior videos how to repair an 8mm tape that's been damaged by mold. And this time I've got a DV tape. This has actually been sitting here for a while because I've just been too busy to get to it. And I finally dug it out, and we'll see what the problem with this tape is and see if I can get it repaired so that I can get a recovery off of this and try to restore someone's video. Anyway, this is a mini DV tape, a Sony, and it's different than all the other ones I've ever seen. I'll show you why. Before I get started on this one, if any of you guys out there use these type of tapes, I've got 5 of them that I don't need. So if you're looking for some blank tapes, these are brand new. I got 5 of them that are going to go up for sale. But if anybody watching needs these type of tapes, I've got 5. I'll give you a great deal on them. Anyway, today we're going to look at a tape that is, well, it appears to be moldy and it's broken. So that looks like that's full of mold. I don't know if we're going to have much luck saving this tape, but we're going to give it a shot. I love it. On the back it says blank. I wonder if it's really blank. Wouldn't that be a kicker to fix the tape only to find out that there's nothing on it? Well, it was sent to me to repair and recover, so let's just see whether I can get the tape, first of all, back together, and second, whether I'm able to do a recovery off of it. A type of tape like this is something that if you can splice it and fix it and get the mold off of it so that it will actually spool without tearing, if you get one pass off of them, they're good. That's all you ever do, is you fix them to get one pass. Okay, this is a first for me. When did they start taking the screws out of these cases? See, here's another tape. 4 screws. No screws on this one. Here's another tape. Another Sony. 4 screws. You can clearly see them. Alright. That's a Sony tape. Looks to be the same one as this. Here's a JVC tape. Got screws on it. There's another tape. This one's okay. This is the Sony Excellence, my color bar test tape, but it's got screws on it as well. But this one's a premium. Same tape. No screws on this one. What gives? How am I going to get into this? What are they? Welded together? Almost looks like they've welded the case together. I mean, this was sent to me months ago, and I've been kind of sitting on it just because I took a peek at it before, and okay, I'm going to do this when I'm not quite as swamped. And the fellow that owns it, of course, sent me an email to remind me about it, so I figured I better get on this thing and see if I can get this tape back together. But I don't know that I'm going to have good news for him if I can't get this cassette open. And it looks to me that Sony got cheap and took the screws out and just started welding the plastic together, which is not going to make for an easy repair on this thing. Because even if I do get it apart, how am I going to get it back together? I'm not going to take the contents from this and put it into another shell because I don't have that many DV tapes that I can just sacrifice. So I guess I'll just have to try to pry this thing open. As I find out after I get it apart, it actually is screws. But they've put plastic plugs over top of the screw head to stop you from being able to get to the screw to remove it. So I guess if you can get those plastic pieces, those pins out, you could unscrew them. But and that's exactly what they've done. They've glued this case together. Well, they really don't want you opening these up to repair them, do they? Things are going to fly out of here. I can just tell when this thing lets go. Ah! Into my thumb. Shit. Did a big Clive. There. Stupid design that one is. It's like they put screws in them and they put plastic caps over top of them is what they did. That's exactly what they did. You can see where the screws were. There's still screws in there. They've gone and they've put plastic caps over top of the screws so that you can't get them out. What a stupid asinine design that is. Oh well. We just have to make sure that this tape will unspool and I'll spool it onto the other spool. I'm going to splice it back on here and we're going to provide the... Oh, someone's already tried to splice it. That was a real good job. Look at that. Gee. Well, we're gonna splice this properly, and I'm going to spool this tape from one side to the other, see if I can get this back together so that I can try to get a recovery off this tape. The rules for splicing tape are quite simple. You first of all start out with a piece of tape that's about the right width for the tape that you're going to splice. In this case, I've got a piece of cellophane tape in my fingers. Well, I did until it stuck to me. We're going to stick the back of this to the back of the tape, or stick the sticky part to the back of the tape, I should say. Get the tape ready to go. Like that, stick it on. And then I'm going to go back to the leader side of things, and we'll stick this side on. And then just try to trim off any excess of the exposed adhesive. I don't care if it's not quite straight or not, it's just the very beginning. There's nothing that's going to make contact with the mechanism on this tape, plus the fact that the tape is never it's gonna get wound once and then that's it. It's never gonna get viewed again. So now the job is just to wind this tape up onto the take-up spool, and we'll have to go through and just make sure that the entire tape unwinds without tearing, because when you get mold on the tape, that's what happens, is the tape will tear. So I'm going to flip the reels over, and I'm going to get a small little screwdriver spindle, and I'm just going to unwind one tape and wind it onto the other shell, and make sure that there's no twists or anything in it while I'm doing it. And then hopefully I can get this cassette back together that good enough, at least, so that I can get a copy off of it, get it digitized. So now the process continues. I just got to wind this from one to the other, and I can see that there's been a problem here. The tape's got a bulge in it. You can see right here that it's not looks like there's some bunched up tape. So hopefully it's not too bad, and then I can put this into my DHR 1000, because that's the only machine I would consider running this on. Has that been spliced there? No, maybe not. It's just wrinkled. That's the only machine I would consider running it on, because it's a machine that I can access the transport on. On a camera and stuff like that, while it's all together, you can't really get at the transport if something were to go sideways. So, okay, I'm going to spend a few minutes just to spool this tape, and then we'll see if we can get it mounted back in the shell and get it on the machine and see if I can get anything off the tape. This is the boring, uneventful part. If the tape were to stick, it could tear, so that's why I have to do this very carefully by hand and keep an eye on the tape as it's coming off the spool, just to stop it if it starts to stick. If we look at the tape here as I'm spooling it, there is kinks in this tape. You can see it. See the kink right there? There's kinks in this tape. I don't know how that's going to come out when I try to transfer it. That could very well clog the heads on the machine while it's going, or it's certainly going to cause some severe disruption. But there's kinks occurring at regular intervals on here. The tape was not rewound properly. Either a pinch roller was bad in the camera, maybe it was a Canon with a bad pinch roller. But something damaged this tape while it was either being wound or rewound. Probably rewound. Because I see these kinks at regular intervals when I'm doing the spooling from one spool to the other. See what I mean? Every couple of inches there's a major fold in the tape. And this may make playback, it might straighten out on playback, but I guess I'll find out. The only way to find out is to finish doing the spooling of the tape, and then I'll put it back into the cassette and probably just hold it together with some Scotch tape and fire it into my DHR 1000 and rewind it on that. See whether I can get a picture off of it. The nice thing about the 1000 is because I can operate it without the top on, I can observe what's going on. Can't do that with the mini DV players, because, especially cameras, because they are so compact. You can't access anything when it's running, because just the way that they load, the tape goes in and then the whole mechanism goes down and half covers the drum to try to make for a compact mechanism. Well, also makes it very difficult to try to observe anything that's happening and correct anything. But with the full-size machine, the tape is actually extracted from the shell, and it's out of the shell for quite a few inches, so it's easy to see what's going on and so forth while it's loading, to look for any potential problems. Haven't really found any mold that's caused the tape to tear, but it certainly is, as you can see, it is quite damaged. The very fact that this damage it's becoming worse as I'm getting closer to the end of the tape. This would have been a rewind problem on the camera. Either something causing excessive slap, maybe I'm thinking maybe one of the gears on the take-up or the supply hub had a crack in it. It was stalling as it was rewinding, so it was causing the tape to slap, because normally on 8mm and mini DV, when you're on fast forward and rewind, the tension is regulated by the clutch assembly, but the tape's actually spooled back using the pinch roller and capstan at a constant rate. But if the supply spool was sticking momentarily and then catching up, that could cause some damage. Either that or it was a pinch roller. Pinch roller could certainly do this too. Usually when the pinch rollers go bad, though, they put actual physical creases that run along the tape kind of diagonally, not perpendicular like this. So it's hard to say what caused this damage, but this tape has sustained a bit of trauma over its life. And generally DV tapes had a relatively short life. Most people recorded them once and put them away and never looked at them again until it was time to transfer them. Isn't that how most people treated their home video equipment? They filmed all their vacations, and they filmed the kids' birthdays and the family get-togethers and so forth. And then the camera just sat in the bag the rest of the time, deteriorating. But the tapes were looked after even worse. They were just thrown in a drawer somewhere and completely forgotten about for 30, 40 years. I don't know too many people that sat down and watched their home video as they were making them. I know I certainly didn't. When my kids were little, I haven't looked at the tapes ever since. I've got lots of tapes that I really do need to do something with, and I haven't done anything with them yet. They're still sitting there. Actually, I put them onto DVD, but I haven't looked at them. I haven't edited them or anything. They're just kind of just sitting there as a rainy day project. As you can see, this is much worse as I'm getting down near the end, and I am getting near the end of the tape. I haven't seen any mold on the tape yet. There certainly is a lot inside the cassette. You can see tons of it, and there's tons of it on the top side of the reel. I think probably what happens is there was a little bit of mold on the tape, and the tape snapped, but it never got into the tape itself. I haven't seen it break. Like a lot of those 8mm tapes that are in really bad shape, they'll snap for no reason. Even when you're trying to spool them from one to the other, you run into a lot of difficulties because the tape itself does not want to cooperate. It just starts tearing. That hasn't happened with this, which is good. It just had the one break at the beginning. Oh, here's some more tangled up tape coming off this. let's go. What's this? Wait a minute. Someone spliced this at the end. There's where the fault is. Somebody spliced this tape at the end, and they did a piss poor job of it, which is why this tape wrinkled up like it did. Now we get to the bottom of it. Okay, well, we'll just eliminate that. Looks like there's lots of fingerprints on there too. The last couple feet of this tape are going to be lost. Yeah, this is pretty crunched up. So the last I don't know, 30 seconds or so of this tape is lost. But at least I can try to stick this back together and, you know, get this tape to rewind. See, that is not how you splice videotape. Just saying. Alright, now that I've spliced that a little bit better than it was spliced before, see if I can get this shell back together and tape it back together so that I can rewind the tape in the machine and see if there's anything on it. Put the shell back together, if it will go together. I forgot the little latch, but that's okay. I just want to make sure that the shell will fit back together, and then I'll deal with the latch in a minute here. Not that the latch is really necessary, because if this thing plays once, that's all that needs is one play. Okay, I've got this tape back together. Now to take it inside and see whether it will play, and see if I can get a copy. I'm only concerned about seeing it play once. So let's go inside and see what happens. So here I am with the DHR 1000. Let's see if this repaired tape will rewind. And we'll see how long the tape is as well. Looks like, oh, well, I see something on there. I see 16 minutes on the counter. So we'll just rewind this a bit because I know it's at the end. And I'll just see if it'll play. Try playing this tape back. Let's see if there's anything on it. Looks like there's wrestling, which is what was expected to be on the tape. So now it's time to rewind the tape back and get this copied over to digital. Make the fella happy. See, the counter shows me there's 15 minutes, but there's obviously segments where there is nothing on the tape. This is now gone to 22 minutes. This is reading the time code that's on the tape, and this shows me how full the tape is. I've actually finally got my hands on some full-size tapes for testing on this thing. The full-size DV tapes. Got my hands on a few of those just for checking this machine out. To say it still has no analog outputs on it. The analog output's no good, but don't need the analog outputs for the work I'm doing with this. This is all done through the FireWire here. The FireWire goes right into my capture device that I've got, which will capture straight from the DV stream from this, and I can either take it to a DVD or I can take it straight over to the hard drive, which is what I'm going to do on this. So wish me luck. We'll see how much of the tape recovers. I'm sure pretty much all of it's going to be there. Keep my fingers crossed though. This tape's actually playing better than I thought it would, considering all the damage it's got. Cuts out every so often, but other than that, it's working pretty good. We're a couple minutes in. Seems to be holding okay to get this one transfer off of the tape. And even though this is just standard definition, that's the quality off the monitor up converted to 1080. It actually looks pretty good. People sometimes wonder why it costs so much to recover a tape. Well, here's the thing. I don't know if you can see it or not, but every time a crease goes past the heads, if you can see them down there, it's going to disrupt the picture. And many times it will clog the heads. So I have to keep the machine apart, and I have to stop, and I have to clean the heads. Every time the heads get contaminated, I have to stop the machine, either run a cleaning tape through or use the good old fingernail trick. And this is a constant battle when you've got tapes that are damaged, like this tape. So people wonder why recovery costs as much as it does. Well, when you've got damaged tapes, you can spend a lot of time trying to recover a tape. You know, in addition to the time spent to repair the tape, there's also the time needed to actually babysit it as it's transferring, just to make sure that it transfers correctly and that we don't end up with heads clogging up, which is quite common. What happens is the heads will clog up after a few minutes, and then I've got to stop the recording, clean the heads, try to cue it back to where the failure happened, but not go over the same section of tape, that the damaged tape that caused it in the first place. This all takes time. So when you're wondering why a shop is charging you what they are to recover a tape, keep in mind the work that we have to do to maintain this equipment, first of all, but then just to get a recovery off the tape. It's not cut and dry. This is a fair bit of manual work to make sure that this works properly. And now this tape is done. It's only taken me about 2 hours to do a 1 hour tape. This tape's now done. I figured I'd show you guys what one of these full-size tapes look like going into this machine. This was a DV cam tape, but it's the same, right? Just the length of it. So I can see what this machine does when I put a full-size tape. So we'll eject this one. As you can see, the mini tape just kind of sits in the middle of the cassette holder, and the full-size tape, of course, takes up the full width. Now what's going to happen when I push the tape in is these little spools are going to kick out. I don't know if we're going to see it on camera or not. Maybe we will. I guess not. But when the tape goes in, those kick out, and the tape just loads just like a regular tape. Nothing's really any different. If you look at the tape itself, the tape has the same exact tape path that the mini tapes use. It's kind of like the large Betacam tapes. I just make sure that the machine is still functional after recovering that tape. Yep. So I just got some of my own test footage on here. So I just use this one as a test tape to verify that the machine's working. And I've got the color bar tape recorded on a mini tape. This color bar tape. This is kind of a sacrificial tape. I use it for when I have to clean the heads using the good old fingernail to make sure I get a picture. And of course the tape gets damaged every time you do that, so once this tape gets to the end, it'll go in the garbage. This is kind of just a one-time play, because if I rewind this tape and play it, there's a good chance I'll contaminate the heads just because there's damage to it for when I get the tape between the fingernail and the head to clean it off. It a lot of times will damage the tape and put contamination on the tape. So anyway, there's a full-size tape. I just wanted to show you guys one of those because they're not all that common, but it's kind of neat. Anyway, now if I load the other tape, maybe you will see the spools go back in, but you'll see them. You can see how wide the spools are now, right? The spools are out here, and then when the mini tape goes back in, because they're much wider than the mini tape goes in the middle of the cassette here. When the mini tape goes in, I guess it happens before it drops, but that's how this one works. You see what I mean, right? Where the tape is exposed is exactly the same, and the tape does not go all the way to the edges. It just goes to this small window here. If I open up the cassette lid, you'll see what I mean. Here's the tape with the lid open. You can see the tape itself just has the same physical spec as the mini. When it gets pulled out, I guess it can pull the tape wider, but it has the same opening as the mini DV tape has. If we look at the mini tape, it's exactly the same. Anyway, thanks for watching.